I've always been a little obsessive about security. It started after college, when I lived in a rough part of town and got my car broken into twice in 1 year. Ever since then, I've had this habit: double check every lock before bed, make sure all the windows are shut, and never leave the door without bolting it tight behind me. So when weird things started happening in my new apartment, I didn't chalk it up to being careless. I knew something was wrong. I live alone in a small one-bedroom unit just outside the city. Nothing fancy. It's in a decent enough building, the kind where the walls are thin and the rent is just low enough to make you ignore it. I moved in about 6 months ago. Work was steady, and I liked the quiet, but it didn't take long for the quiet to start feeling off. The first time I noticed something, it was subtle. I'd just come home from work around 7 p.m. the way I always do. Dropped my bag, grabbed a drink, and sat down to unwind. When I got up to go to bed a few hours later, I did my usual check of the door. The deadbolt was unlocked. Now, I don't just occasionally lock my deadbolt. I always do it. The moment I get home, it's the first thing I do. I don't even think about it anymore. It's muscle memory. Still, I told myself maybe I had an off night. Maybe I got distracted. So I locked it, went to bed, didn't think too much of it, but the next night, it happened again. This time, I knew I had locked it. I even paused at the door and stared at the bolt before I turned it, just to make sure. When I checked it later that night, it was unlocked. It wasn't just unnerving, it made me angry. Was someone screwing with me? A neighbor? The landlord? I started wondering if maybe someone had a copy of the key. I texted the landlord to ask if any maintenance had been done while I was out. He said no, said nobody had access but me, said he'd changed the locks just before I moved in, so it shouldn't even be possible. Still, I replaced the lock myself the next day, including the deadbolt. I watched 3 YouTube videos and did it with a drill from my storage unit. I even marked the new key to make sure it wasn't swapped out. Problem solved, right? It wasn't. The next week, I noticed it again. Deadbolt unlocked. This time in the morning, when I was getting ready for work. Now I started to worry, not just about someone breaking in, but about my own memory. Was I losing it? Was I sleepwalking or forgetting things? I started taking photos. Every night before bed, I'd lock the deadbolt, then snap a picture of it. The timestamp would prove it. But sometimes I'd wake up in the morning, check the door, and the bolt would be unlocked again. I'd scroll back to the photo from the night before. Locked. Nothing else in the apartment was touched. No drawers opened, no items moved, just the lock. Undone. It made no sense. I started checking the door multiple times per night. I'd get up at 2 a.m., half asleep, just to peek at it. Sometimes it was still locked, sometimes it wasn't. I bought a motion sensor alarm, a little white device that sticks to the inside of the door. If it opens, it makes a shrill beeping sound that's impossible to ignore. The first night I used it, I felt a weird sense of comfort, like I was finally doing something about it. I locked the bolt, stuck the alarm in place, and went to bed. I woke up at 3:17 in the morning, not because of the alarm, just because I had a weird feeling. The apartment was dead silent. I checked the door. The alarm was still attached. The light was blinking like it was armed. But the deadbolt? Unlocked again. It had happened without triggering the alarm. That messed with me more than I care to admit. I stood there, staring at the door for a full minute. My phone was in my hand. I almost called someone. But who? Would I say, hey, I think my door is unlocking itself at night? I knew what would happen. They'd blame it on stress, on lack of sleep. Maybe they wouldn't be wrong, but I couldn't let it go. That morning, I ordered a Wi-Fi enabled indoor security camera, motion sensitive, night vision, sends video to your phone in real time. If something was happening at night, I was gonna catch it. When the camera arrived, I set it up on the bookshelf across from the front door. I angled it so it had a clear view of the bolt. Then I tested it. waved my hand in front of the lens to make sure the app would ping me. It did. That night, I went through the routine, locked the bolt, took a picture, armed the door alarm, checked the camera feed one last time. Then I turned off the lights and went to bed. I didn't sleep well. Every creak in the walls felt louder than usual. I lay there staring at the ceiling, ears straining for any sign of movement. Eventually, I must have drifted off, because when I opened my eyes, it was morning, 6:04 a.m. I sat up fast and checked the door. Deadbolt unlocked. I grabbed my phone and opened the camera app. There it was. A single clip, timestamp, 2:41 a.m. Motion detected. I tapped it. The footage was dark, but the night vision lit up the room in that eerie gray tone. For the first few seconds, nothing moved. Then I saw myself, stepping into frame from the left side of the screen, wearing the same hoodie I'd gone to bed in. I walked slowly up to the door and turned the deadbolt open. No hesitation, no sign of confusion, just a calm, blank movement. Then I turned around and walked out of frame. I must have watched that clip a dozen times, each time hoping I'd spot something, a twitch, a hesitation, anything that made me look less calm, less deliberate. But there was nothing. I looked like I was in a trance. And what scared me more than anything was that I didn't remember any of it. I checked my phone's health data. No steps logged around 2:41 a.m. Heart rate, normal. It was like I'd moved without registering it. Sleepwalking. That was the logical explanation, right? Except I've never sleepwalked before. Not once in my life. Still, I tried to treat it like a medical issue. I downloaded an app that recorded sounds while I slept. I even moved the camera closer to my bed to see if I was getting up again. The next night, I did everything I could to stay awake. Chugged coffee, left all the lights on, even played loud podcasts in my earbuds. Around 1:30 a.m., I was still wide-eyed, heart racing. At some point, I blinked, and it was 6:17 a.m. Just like that. And the deadbolt unlocked again, but this time the camera caught more than just movement. The new clip showed me sitting up in bed around 2:10 a.m., not getting up, just sitting, staring straight at the wall. I stayed like that for almost 5 minutes. Then I whispered something. The mic picked up only one word. Faint. Croaky. Like it hurt to say. It was my own name. Then I stood, walked to the door and undid the lock. But here's the part that really got me. I didn't walk out of frame this time. I walked toward the camera, and right before the video cut off, I smiled. Not a normal smile. It was off, tight, unnatural. Like I wasn't used to doing it. That image stayed burned in my brain all day at work. I could barely function. Every time I blinked, I saw that face. My face, grinning with empty eyes. That night, I didn't go to sleep. I installed 2 new locks on the door, 1 chain lock, 1 sliding bar. I even wedged a chair under the handle, like in old movies. Then I sat on the couch in the living room with the lights on and my phone in my lap. Around 2 a.m. I started to nod off. I remember looking at the time, 2:07 a.m. Then the next thing I knew, I was waking up on the floor. Not in bed, not on the couch, the floor. In the hallway, right outside the bathroom. It was 5:56 a.m. The door? Every lock undone, even the chain, which should have been impossible from outside. The chair was toppled over. I ran to the camera app. New clip. The footage started at 2:12 a.m. It showed me getting up from the couch. Slowly, like I was being pulled. I walked to the door and started unlocking each lock, one by one. No struggle. No pause. Even the chain, I just slid it off, like my hands knew how. Then I turned to the camera again, got real close, and I whispered something, barely audible. But this time, it wasn't my name. It was, "He's still here." Then the screen went black, not faded, cut, like the video had been tampered with. The timestamp jumped ahead to 3 a.m. There was no clip for what happened in between. That made me panic more than anything, because I'd never deleted anything. Not a single second. Something was happening when I wasn't watching. That day, I called in sick. Bought another camera, this one with cloud storage and no delete option. I set it up to record both me in bed and the door at the same time. Multiple angles, no blind spots, and just in case, I left a note for myself on the bathroom mirror. Stay in bed. Don't get up. I wrote it with a red Sharpie, big letters. Figured if I sleepwalked again, I might see it. That night, I went to bed around 11:30. Locked the door with all 3 locks. Set the cameras. Made sure they were live. Then I lay down and stared at the ceiling. Sleep came in waves. Restless, twitchy. But eventually, I must have gone under, because when I woke up, it was 6:03 a.m. again. I bolted upright, checked the mirror. No message. The Sharpie writing was gone. I ran to the door. All locks undone. Chair on the floor. Then I checked the footage. And for the first time, I wasn't the only one in the frame. I sat there, staring at the app on my phone. At the still frame it had captured. The last frame before the clip ended. There I was, standing at the door, face turned toward the camera, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. And just behind me, over my left shoulder, was a figure. It wasn't clear, like the lens had trouble focusing on it. Blurry, black, where it should have had shape. Long arms, no face. It almost looked like it was leaning out of my back, like it had been hiding inside me. I replayed the clip. The figure never fully stepped into view. It just emerged, briefly. Like it had used me to reach the door. And when the locks came undone, I didn't move. I just stood there. Still, blank. I tried to tell myself it was a glitch. A double exposure. A bug in the camera. But then I opened the cloud feed. And the clip was gone. Deleted. Every file from that night erased. I hadn't touched it. Something else had. That day, I left the apartment, grabbed a bag, stuffed it with clothes, and went to stay at a friend's place across town. I didn't tell him everything, just said I was dealing with some weird stuff and needed a break. He didn't ask questions. That night, I felt safe. I triple-checked his front door. No cameras, no alarms, but I stayed on the couch, fully dressed, lights on. Still, at 2:03 a.m., I blinked and woke up standing in the kitchen. The back door was wide open. Cold air pouring in, and something whispered from behind me, "This isn't your house." I spun around. No one there, but the kitchen clock had stopped, frozen at 2:03. I stayed the rest of the night with every light on, back pressed to the wall. In the morning, I checked my phone. No steps logged. No recordings, but a new note had appeared in my reminders app. Just one sentence: "You shouldn't have left the door open." I hadn't written that. I didn't even remember opening the app. I went back to my apartment that afternoon, not because I felt brave, but because I realized I couldn't escape it. Whatever this was, it was following me. Or maybe it had never really left. Maybe it had always been inside. The apartment felt colder than before, dimmer, even with the lights on. Dusty, like it had been empty for months, even though I'd only been gone a day. I set up the cameras again, but this time, I didn't watch the footage live. I couldn't. Instead, I sat on the floor with my back against the front door, a knife in my lap. The locks were all back in place, but they felt useless now. What was I locking out? Or in? Around midnight, I started hearing tapping. Not from outside, from inside the walls. Soft, rhythmic, moving slowly, like it was circling the room. I didn't move. Didn't even breathe. Then it stopped, and I heard my own voice, clear, calm, from the hallway. "I think he's waking up. I was awake. So who had said that? I lunged for the hallway. Empty, but the bathroom mirror had a message scrawled across it. Same red Sharpie. Go back to sleep. I hadn't brought the marker back from my friend's house. I'd left it there. So how? No. I couldn't question that anymore. I couldn't keep pretending this was something I could track or fight or explain. That night, I didn't sleep. But I woke up anyway, 6:01 a.m. In bed, knife gone, locks undone. Camera footage? Blank. Except for one still image. Me, staring directly into the lens. Except my eyes were black. Not red. Not bruised. Just empty. Glossy. Like two wet stones pressed into a face. The image file was labeled home.jpg. I didn't name it that. I didn't take the picture. I haven't left the apartment since. Every time I try, something pulls me back. Sometimes literally, like I'll step out the front door and blink, and I'm back in bed again. Sometimes I don't remember walking back inside at all. Sometimes I don't remember whole days. People have stopped texting, stopped calling. I don't know how long it's been. Time slips here, like it's folding over itself. I see myself in mirrors, sometimes moving slightly off sync, mouth opening before I speak, smiling when I don't. And at night, the locks still click open, even though I've removed the deadbolt entirely, even though I've barricaded the door with furniture, even though I shouldn't be able to leave. But I do. He does. The thing in me, or maybe I'm the thing in him now. I'm writing this down because I think tonight is the last night I'll be able to. I can feel something shifting, something crawling closer. My face doesn't feel like mine anymore. My skin twitches in places it never used to. And when I speak, my voice sometimes echoes, even when I'm alone. So if you're reading this, don't worry about who I was. Just check your locks tonight. Twice. Then look in the mirror, real close, and ask yourself, are you the one wearing you? Or did something else slip in when the deadbolt came loose? If you enjoyed these chilling tales and want more true horror stories from the shadows, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Hauntica, and tap the bell icon so you never miss what's lurking next. Your support helps keep the darkness alive and the stories coming.